Hello, everyone. My name is Casiris, and I am the Communications Manager here at Neustar. On behalf of all of us at Neustar Registry, I'm pleased to welcome you to the next webinar in our .brand series, which today is all about our transition to .neustar. For many of you who followed us previously, you'll know that we're passionate about helping you to use your .brand to really make an impact for your business. But in the next half hour, we'd like to explain how exactly we walked the walk here at Neustar and our transition to our own .brands domain, .neustar. Before kicking off, I just want to mention a few housekeeping items. So by default, attendees are placed on mute during the webinar, but you can ask questions at any point through the Q&A box on the bottom right hand of your screen. We'll take a few minutes at the end to answer all of the questions that you might have. We also will be recording today's webinar, and it'll be available to you via our .brand site, makeway.world. So you'll be able to access the session in the future or share it with your colleagues. Now, let's introduce you to our two presenters today. First, we have our regular presenter, Tony Kirsch, who leads our advisory business here at Neustar. Tony's one of the world's foremost authorities on new top-level domains. Many of you may be familiar with his blogs and musings on all things .brands over the last few years, and I know Tony is really excited to share this .neustar launch with our listeners. We're also extremely lucky today to have Barbara Reed join us. Barbara's our corporate webmaster, and she's been instrumental in driving the transition to .neustar within our organization. So it's great to have Barbara able to join us today to share her firsthand experience on how we made the move to .neustar a reality, and also answer any questions you may have. And so with that, let's get started. Over to you, Tony.
Thanks, Casiris, for the warm welcome, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. And in particular, thanks very much for joining us. This is a really special webinar. I think most of you that are listening today will be aware that our team here at Neustar are long-time believers in the benefit of .brands, but today we're going to share with you what it's really like to use a .brand TLD. And as I said, we're very excited to be able to share this, this journey with you. As you can probably imagine, our transition to .neustar has been a project that has been something that our entire organisation has been working on for quite some time. And, you know, we're pretty proud to say that it's been a success, and we're very humbled to be able to share this with you today. So we hope you find this webinar valuable. We hope it helps you with your .brand project in your organisation. We're going to be pretty open with you. We're going to share our ups and downs. We're going to tell you what we've done well and what we haven't. And along the way, we're going to sort of share with you all the little tricks and the tips that we've learned that might help you. No doubt, this is a hard and a difficult project. We knew it was going to be something that touched every part of our business. And whether it was from our CEO right through to our call centres and support teams, from internal and external stakeholders, we wanted to make sure that this wasn't just a change of domain names, but we wanted to make this a change to our digital identity and something where .neustar could be our online footprint for many, many years to come. And albeit that we're a registry provider in this space, we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of really great clients that we engage with on a daily basis, and we've learned a lot. So we sort of felt that we had an obligation to share these learnings, to implement .neustar, and ultimately lead the way in sort of, you know, trying and doing exactly what we do with our clients every day. And this is part of an internal commitment that we've made to share these experiences with you, and today is very much a part of that. So let's have a look at our agenda for today. This is what we're going to cover. As Kasara mentioned, it's fantastic to have Barbara Reed from our Virginia office join me today. She's been absolutely instrumental in making this project a reality. And Barbara's going to help us to have a little insight as to why we did the big move and how we made it a reality. No doubt her experience in this space is incredibly invaluable. And we're also going to talk about what the drivers were for our organisation that stimulated the interest and the desire to make this sort of investment and change, and how we helped everyone feel comfortable with that change along the road. And as part of that, we're going to deep dive on sort of the 6 key areas within our project. There's many others. We're going to sort of focus on those top 6 areas about what we did for .neustar, why we did it, and the process that we achieved to make sure that it was a success. And to finish off, we're going to talk a little bit about some top hints, things that you might want to remember as part of your project. And of course, as always, we're going to have a little question and answer. As Casiris mentioned, you can ask a question in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen at any time. We're going to make sure that we have enough time to get to as many of those as possible. All right, so let's get started. We'll talk about the first part of our project. And obviously, the key part is our move from our traditional domain or our legacy domain, which was neustar.biz, and our move to home.neustar. And as many of you will know, if you've been a sort of long-term participant in this .brand stuff, we're not the first organisation to do this. There's about 20 companies that have done it before us, and that includes large organisations like Canon, Barclays, and other globally recognised brands. But we wanted to make sure that we were following that industry standard. We believe very much in returning to a more cognitive way of using the internet, and our homepage, not surprisingly, is available at home.neustar. And that made a lot of sense for us, both financially and technically. So Barbara, enough from me. Welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. I think it's amazing, as I said, for you to be able to sort of share your experiences with our attendees today. I've talked just a little bit about the leap to .neustar, but from your perspective, what was one of the first things that we looked at as part of this project?
Thank you, Tony. One of the main things is you have to really understand everything that's on your current website. You're going to have to map every page to the new page of your new domain. So you need to do a full inventory of every page, every image, video, logo, form, etc. that you have on your site. You're going to list out all those URLs, and you're going to start to map the URL to your new URL structure. But it's a great opportunity to go through every piece of content you have, to update the old, to throw out the ones that aren't working, to remove or expand the low-performing pages, and just do a general cleanup before you make this big change.
Awesome. And one of the things that, I mean, we just talked very much about sort of the shift from neustar.biz to home.neustar, but that wasn't the only thing that we did, Barbara. I mean, we obviously moved into having a series of microsites for some of our key business units. Can you talk a little bit about that, and in particular, where did we need to change our content management system, or was that sort of part of our journey?
Right. Well, we definitely did new half measures. We took one site and created 6 sites out of it. And we did have to look at our CMS. We knew right off the bat we were going to have a multi-domain strategy. So we looked at the CMS to see if it could handle multi-domains. We looked at the option of actually changing our CMS. Did we need to migrate to something completely different? Fortunately, upgrading our current CMS, we were able to use the multi-domain instance. That made it a lot easier for all of us, and our designers and our content owners can locate their pages and assets really easily. It's got a nice, simple folder structure all in one location. So you could do this project without touching your CMS, but I would definitely look into it and make sure if it's the time to update or not, and make it part of your project.
Well, I know we're going to touch upon this later in some of the slides, Barbara, but many of the organisations that have done this to date have done a shift to a .brand as part of some other project, be it a move on a CMS, for example, or redesigning of the website. But in our case, we didn't just move from A to B. We didn't just take neustar.biz and move it to home.neustar. As we said, we moved to some of these more product-driven microsites, I guess you could call them, as part of our journey. You know, from your perspective in managing this, what were some of the biggest challenges that we went through as part of that?
Well, once the decision was made to actually make the move to our own .brand, we knew right away we could take advantage of it by having these individual websites on their own domain name. It also gave us a great call to action in our ads and in our collateral at events. It's a nice, short, easy domain name that's easily remembered and recognizable, and it's one of the key benefits of having your .brand domain. However, when we set out to do this, we also had to maintain that Neustar.biz website, which was the collective, cohesive, everything we had beforehand. And we decided internally that we would build the new websites and maintain them while continuing to maintain the old website, Neustar.biz, all the way up until the time of launch. Now, granted, you can't sustain that level of effort for very long, but we got together as a group and decided that was the best approach for us at the time. It also meant that the new sites would be absolutely up-to-date and accurate, just as much as the Neustar.biz site would be up-to-date and accurate. We also learned along the way that we had to tweak some of our information architecture. We had to make sure our visitors could cross over to the different websites and back and forth. So we had to understand how we were going to handle that in the architecture. And just recently, we decided to separate out our blogs and have them live within their own sections of that CMS and get served from within their folders to make things even easier on everybody. So there's a lot to figure out.
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way. But I mean, and we'll talk about some of the outcomes of that in a moment. The next thing that we did, Barbara, was really starting to build out our own search.neustar site, and I guess this was something that we learned from a lot of our clients that we work with, obviously large multinational brands in the majority of cases that we work with. And one consistent element that we were hearing from a lot of our marketing colleagues within our client base was that the increasing cost of paid search, which was occurring both through the number of clicks that were hitting sort of paid ads, as well as the average increase in cost of paid search ads, was really causing some tension. So we looked at that and we thought, how could we bring search.neustar, give it a little bit more identity and bring what was otherwise a little tiny box in the top right-hand corner of our website that didn't see a lot of traffic. How could we bring some traffic to that site? How could we give it some identity? And ultimately create a place where if we could teach our customers to ask us questions and we could customize some of those responses. I think this has been a really, important part of the journey. When we were designing it, what were the things that we had to do to make that a reality, Barbara?
Right. Well, we had the technology already on our old site, our existing site at the time. We used Google Search Appliance, so we had the little search box up the right-hand corner, as you said. But we wanted to focus on, this branded experience. So we created this tool by having the search.neustar site. We kept it simple, so it's very similar to how you would search in any kind of browser. But we wanted it to keep that brand and to keep the domain that we had planned ahead of time. So it was simple to do. It involved designing the page and then doing some tweaking.
And then I guess taking that a step further, a lot of the tools that we managed to use to do this have sort of an ability for us to enhance what is otherwise a typical search experience. Would you mind just sort of talking to us a little bit about that?
Sure. In site search language, we call this tuning. So we went through our content. We prioritized the commercially valuable terms, and we tried to avoid showing results that we thought were a little bit less relevant. We really wanted to make sure that we showed our customers what they wanted to see and what they would find valuable. And we wanted to increase the efficiency for our customers to engage with the business if they wanted to. For example, we put a premium on our fresh blog content and our product pages, so customers could learn more about our products, they could get in touch with us quicker, and then we deprioritized some of our older content and content that was more of a corporate nature, like old press releases. So we really could focus on those products and get them up front in those search results. So the internal site tools are actually quite intelligent, and they not only give us an ability to tune our responses, but we also can learn what's working and what's not working and see what people are searching for.
Awesome. Yeah, I really think that this is going to be part of a long-term strategy for many brands here, is to sort of, where possible, get a little bit more interaction with their clients and get their clients asking those the questions. I mean, the next thing we looked at, Barbara, was around looking for methods to be able to share .neustar with our customer base in simple and I guess low risk and ways. And one of those was around our URL shortener. As you can see here, folks who are on the webinar, we've moved from what was a typical sort of a shortened link at the top side there to really starting to deep dive into a .neustar URL with customized text to the right-hand side. And we've had some great customers start to join us on that journey already this year. Barbara, I guess, we look at the way that we did these posts on social media. Could you sort of give us a bit of insight as to why we did that change and how we did it?
Sure. So this is really about taking that TLD change to the next level by using the branded URL shorteners and to help reinforce our company name every time that we send out a tweet or post on social media. So we looked at Bitly, which we were already using, and there is a way to use a branded Bitly URL shortener, but we also looked at a company called Rebrandly that lets you choose your domain shortener for that as well. But you want to make sure that whatever URL shortener partner you use, that it integrates in with your social media platform. So right now we're testing these two. We're seeing how they perform. But it's just another great way to reinforce your brand and teach your audience about your domain, because it's right there every time you see it.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll talk a little bit more about the results of that in a couple of slides' time. But I think this has been a really great low-risk, low-impact way to get people seeing .neustar. Another one that we obviously undertook, for those who get regular emails from us, you'll see that our emails have shifted to a team.neustar email address. Barbara, this is obviously a decent sort of change. What prompted that, and how did we go about it?
This was a rather large change, actually. This is a huge part of this project. A lot of people were involved with making it happen. But again, we really wanted to make that domain change to be much more than just what you see in the browser. This is our brand. We wanted to reinforce it at every opportunity that we could. And so we chose to make this move to the team.neustar email. So in order to do this, we had to look at all of our systems, including our third-party systems. We needed to see every system that used email as an authentication device. And then next we had to look at all of our employee and our customer support emails. We needed to see how these emails linked into our LDAP. That took over a month just to sort of, peel back the layers and see what we had to work with. And then we mapped all those employee and customer emails to this new email team.neustar. We rolled it out to about 25 people within the company. They were our test guinea pigs. We let them use their new emails in entering every system they could possibly use within the company and without, such as signing up for webinars and whatnot. Make sure it worked with the CMS, our CMR, PeopleSoft, Concur, all those different systems that you have within your company. And then we expanded that group to another set of people, let them start testing the emails. Eventually, we moved all the employees and the support emails to the new @team.neustar email address. So the process took a lot of time. We did it slowly and methodically. We did some surveys through these guinea pig test subjects to see what their experiences were so that we could mitigate any kind of risk before we rolled this out to the entire company. And as a backup plan, we retained our original @neustar.biz email just in case someone needs to log into a system that doesn't recognize that .neustar email brand there. It doesn't happen very often, but occasionally somebody might need to fall back on their old email.
Yeah, I think you make a great point here, Barbara. I mean, for a lot of folks, it would appear at face value that it's just a simple change of an email address. But I think what a lot of people will forget, and will now, as a result of your comment, appreciate, is that our email addresses, and I guess it ties into our next point, our email addresses are used for many things, not just the least bit of authentication, but our ability to navigate within our own intranet, for example, with third-party applications. And I know that this was one of the things that we had to look at. We're not going to go sort of deep on this today because we have a lot of those systems that we use, but all of the people that are on this webinar today will work for organisations where you have a significantly complex tech stack. Now, the one thing that we wanted to sort of share with you as part of today's webinar was really just to make sure that, as Barbara mentioned, moving email is one thing, but typically our stacks are interwoven, complex systems within our organisations. So our strong advice here is that if you're going to do a change of this nature, you're really going to have to look at getting your IT team involved and having dedicated resources that are capable of going on that journey, that are able to look at the way that your systems are built, where the crossover is. And of course, if you're an organisation, as most of you are, that are global in nature, that may not be the same across every one of your locations. So this is an important part to think about. And as part of that, I mean, just to sort of finish off, Barbara, with our final point on the things that we've done here with .neustar, one thing that I know that you were very focused on was, this communication plan and making sure that we had, absolutely the right messaging going out. Could you just sort of share with us a little bit? We've got an illustration of just a high-level part of the project here, but could you just share with us a little bit about the importance of communication and how we did that?
Absolutely. So moving to our own TLD was a very high priority in the company. It was a high visibility project for Neustar. In fact, it was requested from our CEO. So we were very fortunate that we didn't have to solicit stakeholder buy-in. We already had it. This was at the top of the list to get accomplished in 2017. But with any new initiative, you really do have to have that communications plan to not only your external stakeholders, but to your employee base as well. So make sure that you have it figured out, make sure it's part of your overall plan. Externally, we use social media to build brand awareness, press releases, content articles, webinars, white papers. We created our own little custom TLD website called hello.neustar to explain what and why this was all about. And then internally, we created talking points for sales to use in their conversations with prospects and customers. We armed our support team. And then we used our own internal channels like internet, email, signage, and presentations But because there were so many people in the company involved with this project, and because, for example, every employee was going to have a new email address, we had a lot of opportunities to communicate within the company from the very beginning of the project all the way through to the end.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think this has been, certainly from my perspective, one of the key parts of the project. I'm really, really proud of the effort that we put into this. I think that, our customers and our staff, as you said, really understand the change. And importantly, they don't just understand it at the domain level, they understand about some of the benefits and the reasons why we're doing it. So I think that that's been a really successful part of the project, and something that certainly for folks on the call today, something that I'd really suggest that you go deep on, that you really spend some time to look at it. All right, so we've got about 8 or 9 minutes to go. Let's get quickly through these, Barbara. These are our top hints, the things that for folks who are about to embark on one of these projects within your organisation. We've broken it in for you into 4 phases. This is the part at the very start. Our top 3 tips for this at the very start: get your C-level support. Barbara's just mentioned it. It was incredibly invaluable for our CEO, Lisa Hook, to be on board with this idea. And for the obvious reasons, you're going to need to ask people for their help. Sometimes, in many cases, this is not going to be that individual's or that team's primary role, so you're going to have to fight for resources. And having the support of your executive is absolutely invaluable. And the thing I mentioned at the start was that for a lot of organisations that have taken this plunge, it's been part of another project, whether it's a CMS redesign, whether it's a CMS change, or whether it's a redesign of your website. These are something that's really helpful to put it into some other project. It's not necessary, but it certainly helps. And then the final point before you get started, and this is something that we spent a lot of time with at Neustar, was building the right team. And just to sort of illustrate that, Barbara, could you just sort of quickly, I guess, talk through what the types of team members were that we used as part of a project like this?
Sure. We touched a lot of different parts of the company on this project. So everything from IT, digital, design department, brand, public relations, communications, marketing, engineering, telecom, the support teams, a wide slice through the company touched this project. And you're right, it wasn't everyone's only job. It was one of our many jobs. So we had to really balance out the project timelines, who was available, what milestones we had to hit to pull this whole thing off.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Barbara. Now, as we hit the planning phase, we talked about communication. I think we covered that in some reasonable detail just before. But I think the important part here is that we also spent a lot of time with internal education. It wasn't just about telling our customers about the change. It was about making sure that our staff, our executive, our board were really part of this journey. And one thing you mentioned at the start, Barbara, was very heavily around the concept of auditing and making sure you have a really good picture of what you've got. I know that some people are going to ask us some questions about the performance and what happened with our changes, but one of the key things that we did, I think, really well was having a really good grasp of what we had and making sure that we migrated that across. And I guess the third point there was, and related to that, was really being able to benchmark. We need to be able to show that this was a success. We need to show the impact. We're going to talk about that in a second. But from your perspective, Barbara, we did a lot of benchmarking, but what were some of the challenges around benchmarking the old content on such a broad site that we'd been building for many years?
Well, you have to know what you want to benchmark, for one thing. What are you going to measure after you move to this job brand? So I look at our KPIs for that current site, Neustar.biz. And then for each of our top-level domain sites. But think about what's important to your organization. Is it keyword performance? Is it traffic? Is it conversions? Is it your backlinks? For us, SEO is very important, as we're domain and page authority, and backlinks, because these are always important. So by auditing your site for SEO performance, both the technical and on-page performance, running reports on backlinks, and general rankings, you not only have a chance to make improvements to that new site, you can also then use all those as benchmarks for what you're going to measure before and after you make this big change. In addition to those invaluable one-to-one redirects, and there were thousands and thousands of those, we created our own reporting in Google Analytics for that before and after picture. We also use a lot of third-party tools to take some snapshots of what happened before and after. Because obviously you don't want things to flip too far or to flip too long, so you're looking at your analytics and reporting pretty much daily. But one of our challenges was that, we had to compare one site to 6 sites, and how are we going to do that? How are we going to roll up performance of 6 sites and make it an apples-to-apples comparison to the old site? So we actually utilized segments and some custom views in Google Analytics to help us do that.
So you make an interesting point there, Barbara. We're talking here about sort of, I guess, now that we've done during the migration itself, and we talked about the redirects and being able to move stuff from the old to the new, and its impact, obviously, on search and site performance. I guess from a migration perspective, how has the transition to .Neustar impacted our traffic? You mentioned that as one of our key performance indicators with our organisation. How has the move to .Neustar impacted our traffic?
Well, I'm really happy to say that almost all of our key traffic metrics are up, including users, sessions, organic traffic. We've reduced our bounce rate since we've moved to the .Neustar. And I've been watching this daily, weekly, and now I'm able to compare, month over month. I took a look at analytics today for the last 2 weeks compared to the prior 2 weeks, and we've got a solid 15 to 25% increase in our KPIs, in just those 2 weeks. So everything is trending upwards, which is great. And the stats from our social media side of things using the .Neustar URL shortener have also been really positive, which is great news for the business. So far, we feel we have no disadvantage doing what we did. Everyone's really happy about the changes, and we just keep constantly monitoring it and looking at ways to enhance it, and keep it going and make it better every day.
Awesome. Okay. So now that we've done the migration, how is it that we've managed to, I guess the key things that we wanted to give people here as part of this was that, to empower your marketing team. I think one of the real challenges of making a change like this is to not just make it in isolation, but make it part of an ongoing culture within the organisation. So, how have we made sure that people haven't just reverted back to old thinking, 2 minutes after we've done this sort of a, large-scale project, Barbara?
It is a really important part. And again, we didn't want to just simply change a URL that shows up, just the domain name. We really wanted to just process in this project to be ingrained in everything that we do throughout the company. We had that senior executive support, so that was great. I don't think we're going to go back to doing things the old way. I'm fairly certain we're moving forward with this. We spent a lot of time talking to our staff about the benefits of the .Neustar domain, which we've talked about some today. And now we're really putting in the final processes for everyone to follow within the company. For example, our marketing team has a clear process for creating new .Neustar domains. We've informed our agencies and our campaign teams, how to use it, they need to use it. So all that's moving forward. Our technical teams understand how to create a new site with the .Neustar brand. We've got processes for that. It's really what we want our future to be, and we've tried to set it all up so that this is our new world order.
Awesome. Okay, guys, I think you've hopefully got some exceptional value out of Barbara's insights. One thing that we're really proud to announce with you today is the launch of our what's called our launch guide. It's our full white paper, our description of everything that we've done for .Neustar. Within it, you can read what we've done and why we've done it, and you'll get some really good insight as to some of the processes that we've gone through. So have a look at launchguide.neustar. You can see it's a really fantastic document. You're welcome to download it. It's available now. But with that, I think we're sort of getting close on time. I can see we've got quite a few questions. Kasiris, I'll pass back to you and see if we've got any questions from our attendees.
Thanks, Tony and Barbara. Again, so we are hitting the half-hour mark, but we do have some questions, so we'd encourage you to stick around if you can. So one of the first ones is, why did you choose home.neustar and not www, global, or website?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I know we had a significant amount of conversation around this exact topic, and not everyone was on board with this idea. However, I think the reason that we moved to home.neustar as distinct to some of the other options is probably best explained by talking about something else. For example, our security services products. We wanted to return to a situation where you could go to security.neustar or registry.neustar, or even other components of our business, for example, like contactus.neustar. We wanted to return to a more cognitive naming system. And ultimately, it came down to the idea of saying, well, if it's our homepage, I mean, we could have called it homepage.neustar, I guess, but ultimately home.neustar is the home of our business. It's where you find sort of the highest level of content that we have for the business. So after, I guess, a few interesting conversations and a few challenging moments, that's ultimately where we settled. It was about keeping it as simple as possible.
Great, thanks, Tony. So have you found value in NX data discovering traffic you never would have had access to?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the traffic that we've been able to get from this has been significant. We talked about this across multiple channels. So let's, for example, focus on one with the URL shortener. By using the tools and some of the customized monitoring elements that we already had in place, we're able to see a lot more on our social links. We're also, as Barbara mentioned, seeing not just more in the way of an improvement in the amount of traffic that we're getting, but we're seeing a slow uptick in the amount of direct engagement to some of those domains. So whether it's marketing.neustar and things like that. So the DNS in itself is a relatively, I guess, flat technology in the sense that we're able to see and monitor upticks in queries and direct traffic. What we're seeing more on our analytics side on the website is that people who are coming to deeper content within our site are staying longer, they're consuming more content, looking at multiple pages. And I think long term, as we continue to market and use .neustar and all of our advertising call to actions and things like that, we're going to be able to see where people are coming in. We can monitor that on our .neustar infrastructure and get a sort of a greater level of insight as to how our customers are interacting with our site.
Awesome, thanks for that, Tony. So this one is specifically for Barbara regarding email. When forced to use the old address to access systems, did you escalate these to the provider to help them improve universal acceptance?
Absolutely. I do it every time myself. I'm a big subscriber and consumer of media on the internet. So whenever I stumble across somebody who can't take my at team.neustar email, I will send them a message to their help desk or phone call to somebody I'm working with and let them know that they need to get with the plan and update their acceptance.
I'm sure they appreciate that, Barbara. Well, we are going to wrap up for today. We do have a lot more questions. Unfortunately, we can't get to them all, but we will follow up with everyone afterwards. So thank you so much for attending. Again, the webinar was recorded and it will be made available soon on our makeway.world site. So you can head there to get the latest brand news, resources, and sign up to our biweekly newsletter. And if you do have any feedback after the session, we'd love to hear it. So you can send us an email at .brands@registry.neustar. Thanks again and have a great day.